Hey guys and girls, we are back, Board Now and Rachel McDonald. So this is going to be a follow-up to our Buffy Season 2 review video, which is now live on the channel. So this will be our bottom 5 episodes of Season 2 and our top 5 episodes of Season 2. Agreed, we've come up with a combined list based on our own rankings where we've compromised and come up with the sort of best combined list for both the negative side and go worst. Really up and down season at times. There are some lowlights in this season along with some really great stuff. 5 on our least favourites is Reptile Boy. So if you want to say a little bit more.
We spoke a little bit about Reptile Boy and the giant penis snake, and oh god, just the phallic symbolism there is not good. I think the problem, when Keith and I, we spoke a little bit about this in our review, we spoke a little about this off camera. Reptile Boy, it's the monster of the week that lets the storyline down. The frat house and the giant penis snake monster and everything is not engaging at all. We have a few good character beats in this episode. We spoke yesterday about Xander, the little scene at the end where Angel comes up and Xander's all like, Angel, Angel, Angel. Does every conversation we have to center around that freak? Hey, man,
there's definitely some
there's some fun. We get a little bit of Buffy and Angel. I think we get a little bit of some Cordy in this, and Willow has a great moment where she yells at Giles and Angel. But overall, this is a really lackluster episode. It's one of those episodes early in season 2 where you can tell that it's still kind of recovering a little bit from season 1 and hasn't quite found its feet yet in season 2. And yeah, I just think that the frat boys are not that interesting. They're not that fun. I don't know. A lot of the beats with them just don't work. The actual demon itself, as we spoke of, is really weak, and it's just not a very memorable episode, at least for me. What about you? Why did this end up?
I think the pacing really drags at times, and it only gets a bit worse in a way as the episode goes on, because some of the stuff with Buffy and Cordy I enjoy, and Cordy doing her fake laugh and stuff, it's pretty funny. And as I said yesterday on the other video, I do enjoy the opening scene, which is really cute, which is them watching the Bollywood video. So that's very nice. But no, it does have some decent comedy moments, but overall, I'm not really that into the story, and I think it drags. It's obviously very cheesy with the reveal of the monster, and it's also this thing of, I just find it, because we're now at a stage where we sort of realise that Angel is Buffy's ideal sort of soulmate and stuff. I just find it a bit frustrating. We have to go through the motions with these human characters who are just really boring to watch, listen to, and it just seems, for the sake of it, a little bit sake of drama. 4 is some assembly required. And I think these fit quite well as a pair, because it's a good example of the monster of the week dragging the episode down. Because both have decent moments with the Scoobies and some decent comedy. But just the emotional side or the heart of some assembly required. Once again, I just think it's got weak villains in a way. They're not really that interesting to watch or to follow, and I don't really care that much about, even the one out of the trio who is meant to be more likable. I think his name Chris or something.
Chris,
even he, I wasn't that compelled to.
No. And I think, I mentioned in our review, it's almost, it feels like they're trying to do Frankenstein, but it was just a bit of a miss. I think the story with Daryl and, you know, Chris having resurrected him, and we're obviously supposed to feel sorry for him when he's like, you know, I'm all alone. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, you're all alone, but that doesn't give you license to cut up girls. Like, this isn't, you know, it's like they wanted us to feel sympathy for these characters, but they're doing something so heinous that it's hard to feel sympathy for them. So you just end up with this kind of confused mess. That being said, we do get some nice stuff in here. We get Giles and Jenny, you know, on their first date. And we have, as we spoke about in the review, you've got that scene where Giles is pretending to ask her out. Xander literally runs through fire for Cordelia in this episode, which is a great character moment. But overall, again, another lackluster episode where, the villain definitely lets it down. And I think just the concept of this episode is really creepy. And especially in these days with like everything to do with like female empowerment and bodily autonomy and stuff, the fact that this episode is literally about chopping girls up to make another girl, it doesn't fit great. You know, it feels a little dated and a little like, maybe we shouldn't have gone down this route. And it's just not a memorable episode. It's one of those ones that until someone mentions it, you're like, oh yeah, right, that episode exists. Yeah, okay. So
suffers from like the villains in it aren't interesting enough, they're not menacing enough. And like I think you just end up feeling a little bit like queasy a little bit because what they do, and it's just sort of gross, but it's not really gross in an interesting way to watch. Sort of thing.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
There's no real sort of menace type thing. So very true. Okay, so that's some assembly required at 4. 3 is an interesting one to talk about, and that's Bad Eggs. People have as one of their worst episodes of the whole show. There is a side of me that enjoys some of it just because I do have a soft spot for Invasion of the Body Snatcher style story. And some of the stuff later in the episode is actually quite effective, like quite unsettling. I think if I'm right, and it was Marty Noxon's first script, I wasn't say it's someone like that. Maybe it's Jane Esperson. Maybe it's her first.
Oh, right. It's Noxon. It's Marty Noxon.
It is Noxon.
I don't know if it was her first one, but it was written by Marty.
It's an early one. Yeah, that just twigs somehow. But
yeah.
But yeah, there's stuff like that which I do enjoy. But overall, I just think it's a bit of a bland episode, and it's actually quite boring to watch. There's not that much entertainment in it. And there's not a lot of life to it. I think they go with this really bleachy sort of colour scheme in it, which just is that way all the way through. And it's one of those episodes, because we were talking about Joyce last night. I think it's actually a bad episode for Joyce. Like, she really irritates me. Like in the scene in the mall with her and Buffy.
The mall,
But also, I just think it's quite badly written because, you know, those two cowboys, like
Lyle and Gorsh, or what? Gorsh, or the Gorsh brothers, Lyle and something.
They don't really have a place in the episode. They shouldn't be in the episode, and I don't really find them that entertaining. But it just felt like, this wasn't really an episode to have them in, because for a lot of the episode they're just like sitting around like somewhere,
like just watching Buffy, and they're not even being that threatening.
Much with them, and,
and
obviously it's the surviving one they bring back in season 3.
Season 3.
In a much better episode.
Much better episode. We'll talk about that when we get to season 3. But I'm with you. I think this episode is just a bit bland. I've talked about this on this channel many times before, so it's no surprise to anyone. Like I'm not a science fiction person, so whenever the science fiction aspect comes in, that does tend to lessen my enjoyment a bit. So, you know, while obviously, like you said, for you, this is great because you enjoy the Invasion of the Body Snatcher stuff. For me, it's not that great. I don't find the egg demon that scary or anything. I don't find this episode, it's missing like a lot of tension. It doesn't really have any stakes. It doesn't really feel Yeah, anything. I do find one part funny, which is the fact that Xander decided to boil and eat his egg when he's supposed to be taking care of it. I thought that was kind of funny. But aside from that, there are no, like when I think about this episode, there's no real character development. There's no real character beats. There's not really anything to keep you watching this episode. It just kind of flies under the radar. And I just do not love it. And
Yeah, I mean, all I think about when I think about the episode is I always wonder if that experiment is a real thing in schools, because you see it a lot in like
No, it is. I had
shows.
to do it.
Oh, did you?
I had to do it in school. I had to carry around an egg for a week. It was fucking ridiculous. It doesn't teach you anything. It's so dumb. But yeah, it's a real thing. It's kind of stupid.
Assumed it was just because they've used it in so many shows now. So yeah, fair enough.
The worst now. We're at the bottom 2.
Yeah. So Inca Mummy Gal is our number 2. This is the one with Impada. It's very campy, very cheesy. It feels like a leftover from season 1, and
I feel like that's an insult to season 1. Because the season 1 episodes are better than this. Oh, gosh.
Well, most.
Anywho.
Yeah, but
Keith and I turned into an old married arguing couple.
Yeah, but season 1 doesn't have Willow in an Eskimo outfit.
That's true, and that is the most adorable. It's probably the only good thing about that episode. That little highlight of Willow there in her little outfit.
Yeah, I mean, this is one episode where they just throw all logic out the window, because you have like Xander and Impada on the bleachers at some point, and the Indian guy comes out of nowhere, and it's broad daylight, you know.
It's like, how did he sneak up on you? You're literally on an open field. Come on.
Yeah, but also just the fact that no one seems to be around. No one else is on the field, you would have thought. And he just like pops into scenes like willy-nilly sort of thing. There's a lot of plot holes, isn't there? Because there's the plot hole to do with how did Impada know that he was going to be at the bus depot.
Yep.
There is obviously entertaining stuff, because most Buffy episodes, even the weaker ones, has entertaining. You know, I do enjoy Cordelia and her Sven.
Sven, Cordy, gosh, she's the worst.
And yeah, she's obviously a bit of a bitch to Willow because she mocks her outfit. And I'm sorry, but the Eskimo outfit was better than Cordy's.
It was, and it's the first time that Oz notices her. It's the first time he ever sees her, and he does the "Who is that girl?" line, which he then repeats in Halloween. And I just think it's so cute that like that's the first time he notices her, when she's in, you know, this outfit that like almost hides her. He still sees her, so that's like the highlight of that episode, is just that. But other than that, this episode
the actress is pretty bad.
Yeah, she's not great, is she, poor girl?
The whole idea of the episode is a good idea. It's just that they fluffed it. Like, because obviously the comparisons with Buffy, that's what they're going for.
I get that, and I think, maybe, like, the bones of the story are interesting. Like, this ancient girl who maybe had a similar fate to Buffy, to see, again, it plays into that thing of, like, choice that we were talking about in our review. You know, you might not have a good choice, but you have a choice, and comparing Impada to Buffy, but the execution is
way off.
Really bad. Yeah. And, I don't know. It just, again, it's one of those episodes that you just kind of forget about until someone reminds you, oh, yeah, Inca Mummy Girl exists. And it's like, oh, right. That was an episode. And it's just, and again, it doesn't really seem to have any characterization or character beats or anything that kind of elevated, except for that moment with Willow and Oz. And yeah, it's just a lackluster episode that shows that I think season 2 was still trying to find its feet at this point and figure out where it was going and what it wanted to do. And unfortunately, there's just been some weaker episodes in the beginning.
The worst episode of the season for us. It's the episode which is currently bottom on my list, my big list of every Buffy episode so far. It stinks like a fish. It stinks like a rotten haddock. It is Go Fish. It's
terrible.
With a bad attempt to do the creature from the Black Lagoon plot, but with it's so cheesy, the fact that they also happen to be the high school swimming team. I mean, that's very cheesy. There's some really, actually quite unpleasant stuff in this one, but
There
not
is,
in a
isn't
good way.
there?
I actually find it quite sexist at times.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
of the stuff
yes.
with Buffy, yeah.
Let's talk about the scene in the car with Gage and
Yeah.
Buffy. And I always just think of that scene. What if it wasn't Buffy? Like, luckily, because it's Buffy, she can get out of the situation easily because she's so strong. But how many girls have they done this to? And then the fact that afterwards you have the principal and the swim team, the swim coach, telling her to dress more appropriately, which unfortunately is a sad reality for many girls.
But it's obviously hard
But
to
it's still
watch.
gross. Then you have the scene where the coach is going to throw Buffy to the monsters, and she's like, "What are you going to do? Feed me to them?" And he's like, "Oh no, they've already eaten, but they have other needs." And it's like, "Oh my god!" He threw her down there to. Yeah, we don't even need to talk about where that's going. So that is terrible.
It's terrible, and the logistics of it don't bear thinking of.
No,
and then the poor nurse gets sacrificed. And it actually annoys me a bit. Then they actually escape at the end. I mean, okay, like the worst culprit is the coach. He gets sorted out, but it just feels a bit like they considered, well, maybe one day we might bring them back, because they do actually like get away. That stupid scene at the end where you see them swimming away.
Swimming in the ocean.
It just feels like a bit of a different show. Like, because Buffy is talking about, well, they've gone back home.
They've gone back home. Yeah, it is odd. I will admit, the first time I ever saw Go Fish, I did quite like the reveal that the boys were becoming the monsters rather than being eaten by the monsters. I thought that was a fun reveal, but that doesn't save the episode. And like we spoke about yesterday, there are a couple of Cordy and Xander scenes that I think are really fun in this episode. Cordy gets some good moments, but that's about it. You know, we don't get much fun in this episode.
Yeah, I have two highlights. I have one is that some of the Cordys and stuff. The other one is actually Willow grilling Jonathan.
Yes.
I do enjoy that. I enjoy her playing the hard-boiled detective.
And then when Buffy tells her to go interview him, and she's like, "Me? Really?" And she's like, "I'll crack him like an egg." It's just, and then they have a nice little callback to that in season 3, which we can talk about when we get to season 3. So that's fun, but just not a good episode.
Generally, it's such a bad idea. There's some wooden acting.
Oh yeah, Paul Wentworth Miller had obviously not been to acting school yet when he and like we spoke about yesterday, one of the biggest issues with this episode is its placement. You know, we spoke about how I Only Have Eyes for You is actually the perfect lead into Becoming, but instead they then throw this weird Monster of the Week storyline in, which upsets the flow of the season, and maybe was okay back in the day when you watched things week to week, but if you're sitting down to binge this whole season, it feels very jarring to suddenly have this random episode right before such a cracking finale. You know, it's just weird. It's weird.
Yeah, because every time I approach that episode on a rewatch, I just cringe. Because obviously I know the finale's so good, so I want to get to that. So Fish is like, we don't need Angelus in it. He's only really thrown in because it seems the episode before the finale.
Yes, we need to remind us that he's
it's actually one of the weaker uses of him in the season.
Yes, definitely the worst episode of season 2, and Keith and I pretty much agreed on that unanimously, which doesn't happen often between us. So yay, we found some common ground with season 2.
It happens a fair bit.
Top episodes of the season.
Speaking of that, I tell you what, just to be generous, I will swap Bad Eggs and Nightmares over. So Nightmares has gone at one place for the record.
Oh, good! Yay! Well,
only
that's something.
It's not as bad. It's pretty boring though.
Oh, 5. Least best, but still best. But
on the top 5 out of 22 episodes. It's obviously good quality.
Yeah.
So okay. It's What's My Line, part 1 and 2. And this is one you have strong feelings for.
I love this two-parter. I think this is where the season really picks up, where it really starts to build its mythology. We get the great introduction of Kendra, which was, like I said in our review, is one of my favorite reveals. I mean, just that line, "Who the hell are you?" Yes, I love that. Come on, don't make me do the chick fight thing. Chick fight. Yes, so good. But just that line, "I am Kendra, the vampire slayer," and everyone just went, "What?" Just such a great moment. And of course, like we talked about, the misdirection, thinking that she's one of the Order of Taraka. So you have that. Stuff. You get the first, like, the proper introduction of Willow and Oz together. Zordy, I almost said Zordy and Kanda. Cordy and Xander get together for the first time. And it's a great episode for Buffy as well. It's got some great characterization for her, worrying about her future, worrying about what's going to happen to her after high school. Obviously, the introduction of Kendra, suddenly she has like, oh my God, maybe I could go off and have a normal life. But I also love her little jealousy over Kendra, especially when she starts to
that's really funny. I love that stuff.
And that is just so cute. We, of course, get some great Spike and Drew stuff in this episode, with them doing the restoration ritual. And we talked about, we get a great look at what it looks like when you throw Angel into the mix. And we get a little hint of what their dynamic is going to be like later in the season. He turns. And just so much, there's a lot of funny stuff in What's My Line. There's a lot of really heartbreaking stuff. We get to meet Willie the Snitch. We didn't mention that.
That's the gem of the character. I like Willie a lot.
Yeah, and we get some great moments with him and Buffy and Kendra as well. Just hit him, Buffy. She likes to hit. And then at the end, when he has to be Willie, and he's all like, "You two ever consider doing photo work? Because I got a buddy who does some really classy stuff." And they're just like, "What?" And of course, you have the big showdown in the church, which is a great set piece and a great fight, and that ending shot of Drusilla just walking out of the wreckage and just knowing, oh shit, Drusilla is back at full strength. Like, it's just, it's been one of my favorites for years, and it's one that anytime I rewatch, I really look forward to it. So yeah, but you obviously quite enjoy it as well.
No, I get a lot of fun out of it.
Yeah.
It's a very strong two-parter overall. Yeah, really on a theme. I like a lot of the themes in it.
Yeah.
And everything, and a lot of good character stuff. So, yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to number 4. And we decided to split these two. We've gone for Innocence, which is a real game-changing episode. And the big, payoff to the massive setup and surprise, and everything that we learn about Jenny and the backstory with her and the backstory with Angelus, that massive twist, which of course is set up at the end of Surprise, and just everything this episode does, this second part of that story does. Yeah, there's not really a weaker moment in it. The emotional fallout for Buffy.
Oh God, yeah.
The heartbreak, how difficult it is for her to function for a while, and it even has like a nice payoff because she does find the strength to stand up to Angelus at the end of the episode, even though she can't at that point bring herself to actually kill him, but.
Kick him in the balls, girl.
Yeah, and there's a point where she says she knows that she has to kill him one day. It's just it can't be now. She's not ready for it yet. And we said we both love the action style mall scene.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a lot of fun with the villains and a lot of good character drama. So
yeah, and then there's that beautiful end scene. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. I forgot to mention during our review, but this has one of my favorite vampire drinking shots, which is when Angel, this is the reveal that he has actually turned, when that woman comes over and she's smoking a cigarette and he drinks from her, and then he pulls away and he blows the smoke into the air that he's just drained from her neck. And for me, that is such a fun shot. It's such a fun vampire drinking scene, and it's such a great way to reveal that, like, oh shit, he's gone evil. Set piece at the end where we get to see her blow up the judge, and it's just fantastic. And then it just goes towards towards that beautiful but also really sad ending. You know, I particularly just love the line, "I'll just let it burn." It's just a beautiful statement of like what's going on in Buffy's mind at that point and where she is, and such a game-changing episode. And yeah, just really, really love Innocence. Just very hard to watch because poor Buffy, and even littler things like Jenny, you know, losing her uncle, or Willow finding out about Claudia and Xander. There's a lot of heartbreak in this episode, a lot of sadness. So very heavy episode, but a very, very well done episode.
Number 3, we've gone with Passion.
Yeah. Wow. Such an episode. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, and that obviously follows on nicely because it's such a big Jenny episode. So it sort of feels like, in a way, what happens to Jenny and her exit from the show, but what she does in her dying moments actually pays off nicely from the surprise and innocence.
Yeah.
But it's everything is just so well done in the episode.
It's beautiful and creepy and so menacing. I think this episode is filled with so much menace because, and we spoke about this in our review, you know, you feel Angelus's presence over the entire episode. You just know he's there and he's watching. And then we also spoke about how sadistic he is, you know, with placing the body and the way that he makes everything ready for Giles to find Jenny's body. I mean, this episode, if you weren't already thinking that Angel was a threat, this was the episode that said, yes, he is a legitimate, genuine threat to these people. He is not Angel anymore. He is gone. And this was the episode, I think, where any kind of, because it kind of plays with you, you know, because it gives you that hope that Jenny's going to restore his soul, and then it takes it away. And then to add to that, it emphasizes how much Angel is really gone. And then, of course, you have that beautiful little hook at the end, that beautiful 90s hook. Angel's soul is on the floppy disk, you know, and you just see it fall between the two tables, and you just know that it's going to come back at some point, but you don't know when. So it's just a great episode. So much emotion in that one. Giles, Tony Head in that episode he is just giving it his all. Breaks my heart in that episode.
You're on the edge of your seat, like the scene obviously in the school with Jenny where you think she might just escape, and then at the last minute it's taken away. And some great writing, villain's perspective, because a lot of times it does feel like we're in the viewpoint of Angelus in a way, and
that's
he's
a really
actually
cool point.
narrating the episode. So and he's the villain, of course. So that's a brave thing to do. But like you said, he does in a way sort of stalk the episode, and he haunts the characters throughout. So very, very good episode. Really big episode in the season and in the show, really. So very good stuff with Passion. Very consistent. And that brings us on to something a lot lighter, but very good once again when it comes to characters. And that's BB and V. Which way round is it?
Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered.
And Bewildered, of course, which is
great
just
episode.
Great. And it's fitting because it's the episode before Passion. And there's something about Whedon shows and the placement, because this happens a lot where he'll put a lighter episode before a really dramatic.
He knows to balance it.
Because I think he did that in Angel season 5, where he actually put Smile Time before a certain
hole in the world.
Which we won't give away in case you haven't seen it. But there's a certain death in that episode.
I'm pretty sure they also worked it when Angel started airing, that if Buffy had a dark episode that week, Angel would have a light episode and vice versa. So they definitely get the balance down. And I think Whedon shows in particular are really good at balancing that, you know, that really sad, intense stuff with the really lighthearted, funny stuff without making it feel like we're suddenly having emotional whiplash. You know, it's done very well. And well, obviously when we were doing our review, I asked Keith Keith, about this episode, because it is unfortunately it's not a popular episode, which I don't understand, because this
Really, I've
episode is
not heard that before.
yeah,
I
no,
always
Bewitched and
assumed it
Bewildered
was.
goes up and down a lot. It's when you look at
Okay.
best of episodes, people don't tend to mention it. Like, I think because it's a Xander centered episode and he is
Yeah,
not a
that could
popular
be, like you
character.
said.
But
Yeah.
as you said yesterday, this episode is pretty much near perfect. You know, the direction, the acting, the comedic timing of this episode, the relationship of Xander and Cordy, you know, it gives us some really sweet, beautiful moments while also showing the bad side to their relationship. And it makes you feel bad for Xander. It makes you feel bad for Cordy. It works everything. It has some of the funniest stuff in the season, as we spoke about yesterday.
Yeah,
Some
all
of
the
the
different
all
females
the
going
different
after
females.
Sander. It's so
My
funny.
favorite has got to be Drew. Like, I love Drusilla and her
Yeah.
whole, how do you feel about eternal life? And he's like, could you just start with a coffee?
Coffee.
You know, like that. And of course, Joyce as well. And it's just a really, really fun episode. And you obviously love this. It's at the top of your list at the moment.
Yeah, and it's just the perfect be careful what you wish for style episode, because
yes,
it's obviously when you have this sort of show and you have a show where magic is in the universe, you can believe that someone would, out of frustration, like try and use it in a bad way and not really like naively think that everything's going to be okay. Then it's just going to be a clean cut thing where no one will get hurt. You know, I'll just sort of make Cordy love me. That's my goal. And so it's the classic be careful what you wish for, and Xander learns a real lesson, which
he does
fits. But yeah, it's almost just the ironic twist of, like, in reality a lot of guys would fantasize about all these women, but it turns into his worst nightmare. And I love how far they go with it, because it really goes to the extreme where they're potentially gonna be killed over it. I mean, I love like the psycho knife through the door at one.
Yes, Xander, honey, let Joyce in. That's brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, all these different ladies. I mean, I said yesterday, Jenny is so entertaining.
Yes, Jenny's brilliant.
Very good, playing a bit of a different side. It's good to see Amy back. I like that they bring her back.
Yes, me too.
That's a different side, once again, using her magic. But yeah, it's a really well written episode. I think the drama between Xander and Cordy is legitimately at times very well done. It's not just it's actually like good drama, and you know, your pick up of the necklace scene where she
when she's wearing it, it's beautiful.
That's a great scene. But,
the end scene is fantastic. Cordy finally standing up to her friends and half insulting, half standing up for Xander, which is pretty much exactly their par for course for their relationship. And it's just a really sweet moment between them at the end of that episode. I love Cordy and Xander as a couple. They are.
So do I.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite Buffy OTPs. And I really do think that if they had been on the same show as adults, they probably could have gotten back together, because I think they both matured enough that they got to a place where they maybe could have been together, because they're so young and so immature and so stupid at this point. You know, and teenage relationships can be very hard to navigate when you're trying to navigate, you know, adult emotions and adult relationships, but you're still a teenager.
The way it works in the villains is very effective. That works so well. It feels like they're justified in the episode without like sort of really, it doesn't affect the pacing at all.
No.
Like they're very well used. Times day for demons, for vampires, but showing that it's sort of the opposite from as it would be for humans.
Bringing Drusilla a heart. Like, it's an actual heart. Plus, I forgot to mention yesterday, but it has one of my favorite Spike and Angel exchanges, because I just love the lines. When Spike's talking about, you know, what's he going to do for Buffy? And Spike's like, why don't you rip her lungs out? That ought to get it done. And Angel's is like, it lacks poetry. Doesn't have to. What rhymes with lungs? I always love that.
One pick. No surprise. And this was number one for Rachel, number two for me. So it feels like it's a good one to go with as our top pick, because it's a spectacular season finale, and it's emotional, it's dramatic, it's everything you want from a season finale, especially since it pays everything off so well, which has come before, and it is becoming with those great flashbacks as well at the start. They really add something to the episode. So.
Yeah. Becoming, when you look at, if you look at like, just general top 10 lists of Buffy episodes, you'll almost always see this episode in those lists. And there's a reason for it. It's like, we spoke about this so much yesterday, so we don't need to go too much into it. But like you said, it pays off everything that has been building this season. We get some fantastic character beats. We get some fantastic character development. Kendra comes back. We get to see Drusilla and Angelus and Spike as like these insane threats. The stakes in this episode are so high. It kills off Kendra, so we get a big character death and a big moment. The score, as we spoke about yesterday, the score is amazing. And I actually meant to say yesterday, I wanted to mention this because as we continue to review the series, my opinion on Spike and Buffy is going to get lower. But I actually really enjoy their dynamic and their interactions in this episode. I think this is when Spike and Buffy work best, when they're actually enemies who are forced to work together. And they just hate each other. But you can see there's a grudging kind of okay. We've got a little mutual, we've got mutual ground, but and I think that this makes their interactions really fun. And I love when Spike accosts the police officer and like you said, give that whole speech about how he wants them. But I also love Buffy's response when she's like, okay, what is this really about? And he's like, I want Drew back. And she's like, oh, for God's sake, the world's about to end and you want help because your girlfriend's a big hoe? And I'm like, Buffy is just so unimpressed with Spike. And I also love at the end when she's like, okay, we're going to go. And he's like, all right, just let me kill this guy first. And she's like, really? Funny. So I actually really do enjoy Spike and Buffy and their interactions in this episode because I think it works really well and it feels really organic for the characters in the moment. So
he's just so flip, isn't he? Because he's like, oh yeah, I forgot he's on your side technically. So because he has that line, doesn't he? It's something about it's when he finds out that Drew killed Kendra
he's like,
he gets
Drew back to Slayer. Oh, good for her. He's like, I guess
obviously
not from your point of view.
Bad for you, yeah.
So that's really great. Sure. And then, of course, the episode, like we spoke about the emotional beats of the episode, Kendra's death is really intense. Some of the flashbacks are really sad. Of course, Jenny appearing to Giles, which is, Drusilla pretending to be Jenny, which is such a gut punch. And then, of course, that incredible climax scene, which, like I said, I don't think it matters whether or not you ship Buffy and Angel. If you love Buffy as a character, I don't think you can not be emotional in this scene. Just seeing everything that she's having to go through and that final kill. And this was a big thing. Again, we talk about we're talking about all these beats now, but we're living in the golden age of TV where we're used to big things happening. But back then, this sort of event, this was very big. All of season 2 was very big and very different. Just turning Buffy's love interest evil, that was a big thing in and of itself. So I think this finale, for the time that it aired, was so big and so impactful. And like we talked about yesterday, it leaves you on a little bit of a cliffhanger because Buffy leaves town. You don't really know what's going to happen, but it's just, such a great episode overall.
Jenny's dying wish in many ways. I think that's what makes it so perfect. From a storytelling, and I think every character is used so well in that finale, and just the way the stakes are raised. The fact that Willow gets injured at one point, Sanders, Cordy obviously is in danger. She escapes. Oz must have been off filming a movie for the first part because he arrives later on. But, but no, every character is so well used in it, and very good.
Just a fantastic two-parter, and I think it deserves to be on like top 10 episodes of Buffy of all time. It's just so good, and it's one of the best finales I think in the show.
Episodes are your favorite from the season? What episodes are your least favorite? It'll be interesting to see if there's any different ones. But okay, so we're going to do a couple of other bits. So MVP of the season. So Rachel, if you go first.
So I will admit there were a couple of characters that I were tossing up between, but my choice at the end of the day as MVP for season 2 is Willow Rosenberg, because she is, I actually think this might be Willow's best season. She is amazing in this season. Well, because when you look at Willow in season 1, she's very much just a follower, you know. She wants to help Buffy, and she definitely is there. She's researching, you know, she's involved in the world, but she hasn't started to assert herself yet, but you really start to see this in season 2. There are episodes like The Dark Age, or What's My Line Part 2, or even I Only Have Eyes for You, where you actually see Willow take charge. She's the one that comes up with the plan. She's the one that comes up with the research. There's several scenes where she actually tells off characters, you know, like we talked about in Reptile Boy. There's that scene where she yells at Giles, you know, and at Angel, like telling them off for all of the pressure they're putting on Buffy. As you pointed out in Innocent, she's the one that figures out what happened between Buffy and Angel, and she's the one that tells Giles, you need to back off. Obviously, at the end of a season, she does the restoration spell, which, as we spoke about yesterday, was a huge spell for her to undertake. And I think she's really good this season with being there for Buffy. You know, Buffy goes through so much turmoil this season, and I think Willow's a really good friend to her and is really supportive of her. She's supportive of her when Angel and her are just dating before he turns, you know, and when they're talking about whether or not they're going to have sex. And I also, and then, you know, once Angel does turn, she's really supportive of Buffy. As we pointed out in Becoming Part 1, she's one of the only level-headed people in that whole discussion in the library about whether or not to reinstall Angel. And also, you know, even in her relationship, she gets a bit more forward this season. She starts her first relationship with Oz. You know, she grows a little bit from that. She lets go a bit of her attachment to Xander. So I think that Willow's growth and development in this season is just really great. And I think we start to see the stronger Willow that we do see in later seasons, who can take charge and who can actually step up when Buffy can't step up herself. It's really interesting that it's actually Willow who turns out to almost be Buffy's right-hand man and becomes the leader when Buffy is not around. So, and I think that this season just really lays the ground. I was tossing up whether or not to name Angel as the MVP, because Angelus is such a great villain. But because it was mostly because of the villain side, I went with Willow because it's consistently Willow throughout the entire season. So for me, season 2 MVP, Willow Rosenberg, doing her thing, reinstalling vampires and standing up to people and just being all around awesome. So that's my pick for season 2.
The character of the whole show. And this is one of her best seasons. This has everything really that appeals about the character. Some big character growth, some really funny lines. She has some of the most entertaining lines in the season. Some standout lines. Very cute as a character, very quirky. She's got a great sort of fashion sense, which I always enjoy, and just a lot of growth in general, and a great performance from Hannigan across the season. Yeah. And you're right, I think she shines so much partly because of how good a friend she is for Buffy, and how useful she is as part of the team, and a lot of great emotional scenes with her. Her and Giles, the bond there, I find very nice.
Yeah,
I do enjoy, as I said, Teacher Willow. We see a lot of different sides to her this season. We also see Detective Willow, you know, grilling Jonathan.
Yes.
Earlier, so that's very good to see. So, you know what, actually, I was split between her and Buffy, and I was tempted to go for Buffy just because of how emotional some of her stuff is. And the way Sarah Michelle Gellar once again steps up to the plate and delivers so well. But you know what? I mean, Willow is my favourite character of the whole show, and this is one of her best seasons. I think there is an argument for another season being her best season, but Yeah, I think for a lot of the reasons he said, I'm going to agree and I'll go with Willow. I think it is
Yeah.
a standout season for her. I really love the relationship with Oz. I think they play off each other very well and gel.
Yeah.
And he's definitely, for this particular time in her life, a good partner for
Yeah.
her, I think. So, yeah, I'll agree. I'll go with Willow for this season.
Yeah,
So,
she's great. She really is fantastic. And I had a feeling that we might both end up with Willow because I know how much you love Willow. And I was watching this season. I'm like, yes, such a great season for her, just in general. So that's pretty cool that we ended up with the same MVP.
obviously, the trio of villains are fantastic. The main
Oh, so
trio of
good.
villains. But, I would obviously also bring up Ethan Rain as a really good guest star. Like, both the episodes he's in, he's very impressive, and Weasley.
I
And it's
love
one of
Ethan
those
Rain.
things, because they obviously bring him back a couple more times, and he does make for a good, like, occasional villain sort of thing. He has a
Yes.
good presence to him, and the chemistry with Giles, I think, is
Oh,
very
it's
good.
fantastic.
It makes a lot of sense, and these guys knew each other back years ago, and you you could imagine there's some good stuff there with Giles and the impact that Ethan Rain has on him coming to
Yeah.
Sunnydale, and yeah, no, the other one I considered for MVP was actually Cordy. I really like
I get
Cordy
that.
this
Season 2
season.
is a great season for Cordy, especially because she is such a bitch in season 1. So it's nice to see her toned down a little bit this season. And I was watching it and I was saying to Steven, I was like, okay, look, Xander and Willow, they're best friends with Buffy, all right? So they have like actual real emotional stakes and everything. But Cordy at this point, especially in the early part of season 2, she's not quite their friend yet you always see her there. She's there at
Yeah.
school hard, she's there during the dark age, she's there during well, obviously Reptile Boy is kind of her fault, but you know what I mean, like she's already integrating herself in, even before she starts dating Xander. And I think that really shows that Cordy does have an altruistic side. It's buried under these layers of like high school teenage bitchiness, and unfortunately gets lost. But no, I definitely understand like nominating Cordy. She's great this season.
Yeah, because there's something actually about her and the way she's almost a reluctant Scooby than
Yes.
actually does feel more truer to life, where a lot of times it plays out like that, where you can't just separate these and divide them into cliques. And obviously that happens in real life. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I also just feel there is a bit more of a mixture, and it does feel like the sort of thing where whether Cordy admits it or not, she does have a curiosity in this stuff.
Yes.
And it's almost like, because she is fed up of being put on a pedestal and the pressure of that from her social group, she actually wants something a bit different, and she wants to go more under the radar. And it's sort of funny how, in a way, to her, that would represent maybe a more ordinary life, is just hanging out with these people. And that's obviously what most of us take for granted. Is like, well, yeah, that is an ordinary life to most of us, but there's a lot of fun with her. There's a lot of fun. I enjoyed, the scene with her and Jenny at the end of When She Was Bad. About the the ordeal.
Yes.
Yeah, getting the stains out of her hair. That's the worst part about being adopted.
Yep.
Yeah,
The stains,
that's
the
so
dry
good.
cleaning. Yeah. She also
Yeah.
has, I noticed she has a couple of really cute scenes with Willow, of all people. You actually
Yeah.
see her and Willow, like there's that really cute scene in Phases when they're in the bronze and they're complaining about like their
That's good.
boyfriend trouble. And I just think that's really cute. And you see that she is actually starting to integrate herself into the Scoobies, even if it is reluctantly, and find that maybe she can have a more genuine relationship with these people because she can actually talk to them, as opposed to her clique where they don't really talk. They just look good and, do stupid stuff.
Yeah, I like that scene in the bronze in that episode, because it actually it feels like an even sort of theme where like Cordy's actually listening to Willow and supporting her. It's not, because a lot of times with Cordy it's like the
one-sided
thing.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's a more even sort of scene. And yeah, it's one of the nice surprises of the show that her and Willow actually become friends in the long. We see that obviously in Angel, but yeah, and Cordy I think brings that energy in a different way, like a very different character, but I think she brings an energy similar to Spike's energy. And what I mean by that is that I think she shakes up the worldview of the character.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Like she is that alternative worldview where obviously she's very blunt about the way she expresses herself.
Yeah.
As I said, you know, her stuff in
Tact is just not saying true stuff.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And obviously the line in I only have eyes for you about over-identify much, the line.
Oh yeah, I
which
love
again
that she's the one that that figures out that Buffy. Yeah, she's definitely more astute than people give her credit for, Cordy. I remember reading a fan theory once where someone theorized that Cordy is or was a potential Slayer. And that's one of the reasons that she was drawn to Buffy and the group. And I remember thinking that's actually kind of a cool theory. I could get on board with that. It's not a bad idea. So I always kind of like that little idea.
Yeah, so very good season for Cordy. The charisma Carpenter is fantastic because sometimes I think she gets underrated, and I think the reason is because a lot of people just say that she's playing a version of herself a bit, and that's why
I don't think so.
But I think actually, if you listen to her comic timing, I think that comes from the actress. I think
yeah. Charisma's got great comedic timing.
Comedic timing.
She knows how to drop a line and just make it so funny. And in the hands of someone else, it might not be as hilarious. But she just, Charisma's got great comedic timing. And yeah, you definitely see that in this season.
But yeah, no, it's a credit, and I think it probably proves that it's a really strong season overall, is that we do have all these contenders, because arguably you could even go with one of the three villains. I mean,
definitely.
The impact Spike makes is fantastic. We both love Drew, and obviously the Angelus stuff is so big in the season, so yeah, it's exciting. Then you could have a pick between 4 or 5 characters. That's a sign.
It's called Growing the Beard. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so.
So it's a reference to Star Trek. It's a reference to a season of Star Trek where someone grows a beard and the show actually starts to get better from that point. Coincidental, obviously. Yeah. But so basically, anytime you say a show is growing the beard, it means that they've found their kind of theme and their niche, and they've actually started to become better. And a lot of people say that season 2 is where Buffy grew the beard, because season 1 obviously has its fun and everything, but it doesn't have as strong characterization. It hasn't found its footing. It was basically, I mean, Buffy was a mid-season replacement show for another show that had been cancelled. So it really didn't have an identity, but season 2 is definitely where you see it start to grow its mythology, bring its characters, up to par, bring in new characters, add new dynamics. So I think season 2 definitely around What's My Line Part 1, Part 2, that's where the beard definitely starts growing. So I think this was a real turning point for the series, and I think really solidified everything that became so great about Buffy. You see in this season.
Favorite episodes of season 2. What are the worst episodes in your opinion, and what are like the MVPs of the season? Let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always, and we'll be back soon with a season 3 review, and that promises even bigger things in many ways. So such a big season. Season 3 is the final season at high school.
Me, Rachel McDonald, video essays on TV shows and movies. I do have some Buffy stuff. We mentioned earlier, I'll just quickly throw this in, Keith mentioned how much he loves Willow's outfits. I actually have a whole video discussing that, where I go through every single season analyzing her outfit. So come follow me there. My Tumblr is also through there. So is my Twitter, but again, we're not sure how long that's going to be up. So just come follow me on Tumblr, and Keith usually puts the link in the description. So come follow me everywhere.
Okay, thanks, guys. Keep watching Buffy, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.